What is the biggest misconception of you? What's one thing people think about you, but it's not true?
I think that people look at me and just think that I might be a pushover, and that I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth because of where we are right now. So, but I've had the roughest life. So I think that, when people look at Love and Hip Hop and what they're portraying me to be on that show is a little bit different than what reality really plays out in real life.
Speaking about your life and then also where you are at now, kind of give us a glimpse. I mean, we'll go into detail another time in another segment, but just somebody that might not be familiar with you, just give us like a brief description about this life, and then also when you say where you're at and where that misconception could be, give us a glimpse of that as well.
Okay, well, basically I was a teen mom, so not just one time, 3 times. I had 3 before 19, and I had to still finish school. I had to still figure it out, get a job. I kind of ran the streets. I got in trouble. Went through all that, did the street thing with the street boys and kind of, got caught up in some trouble and got out of it, got myself together. I started working at a magazine, kind of like put me into the whole music, fashion industry. I worked at the Source magazine for years as Ray Benzino's assistant. And then off to do fashion in that world, in that publication as well. And then BET, back just 106 in Park, just doing wardrobe and things like that. And as a stylist, I opened a store. I met a guy kind of earlier on in my childhood. We ended up getting back together. He was in the music game. We bought a restaurant here in Atlanta, room service. And we kind of just kept going. We got a gentleman's club in Vegas that led us into owning King of Diamonds. None of it was hard. I mean, easy. It was all hard to do. I think that people look at me now and think that, she's on this platform. I'm still grinding. I think that's the biggest misconception is that I've made it. I would love to have made it, but that's not what it is. I'm still in the rat race with everyone else. But I've achieved a lot. But, with this life, you win some, you lose some, and back up again.
And we're talking King of Diamonds in what city? In
Miami. King of Diamonds, the King of Diamonds. We actually own the rights, the name, anywhere. Oh.
Yeah. There are other King of Diamonds?
There are, and there's one in Detroit. I think that also closed, but we actually owned the real estate. So we owned the real estate. There were several people that came in and said that they owned King of Diamonds, but we actually bought the building. We bought that particular franchise. Mm.
Now, when it comes to, and I just had a question I was going to ask and then kind of escaped me for a second, but I'll move forward with the next question that I had. But something spontaneous popped in my head I wanted to ask you, but it kind of escaped. But anyways, moving forward, craziest rumor you heard about yourself?
That Kitty and I share guys. The weirdest shit ever. Like, what they don't know is that I've been with Kitty's dad, her stepdad, since she was 4. Pretty much through her whole life. I don't know where that rumor came from. I think that something happened a long time ago. The guy I was dating ended up meeting her, and they found out that I dated him years ago as a kid. Obviously, she grew up, she's an adult, she's somewhere, she meets him, and found out that night that we knew each other. It was more of a joke than anything else. Somehow it leaked out the wrong way, and now all of a sudden it's become, we're dating the same guys. Now, what does happen is you have a lot of the rappers and the athletes that hit on her and hit on me. That's a joke. in our DMs, we have the same, DMs from the same guys. But are we dating the same people? No, that's ridiculous. I'm in a monogamous relationship.
What ended up happening with that gentleman that was connected to you two at one point, though? What ended up happening with him and Kitty?
Nothing. Nothing happened. Nothing ended up happening. But that, I don't know if the rumor came from him and, for clout, and it started to just spiral. But somehow it got out of control, and it even got to Love and Hip Hop, which I feel like that was an interest of theirs. And that's why for the first season, it was kind of like what they were trying to peer us to do, with some of the cast. And we're like, we're not doing that. That's because that's not real. That's not my life. So us sharing, I don't know. So that's the rumor that everyone that runs around, we share guys.
False.
Totally false.
What is your relation to Chinese Kitty?
I'm her mom. I'm her mom. I had her, I was 16. I'm her mother. We grew up together. But I'm a real mom, That's another misconception. I think everybody thinks I'm like some knucklehead mother that, I think that I had so much to prove as a kid that I went above and beyond to show everyone that I was a mother. So I did the things that mothers would do in their 30s. At 16, 17, 18, I was responsible. I tried.
People think you're sisters?
Yes, they think we're sisters.
You get that a lot?
We get that every single day. At least 99.5% of the time, people think that we're sisters.
Now, the question that escaped me from earlier that I thought about spontaneously was, when you had described your life and where you are in the entertainment industry, it sounds like you're behind the scenes a lot.
I prefer to be behind the scenes.
Why would you make a decision to get in front of the scenes, so to speak, on a reality show like Love and Hip Hop?
Good fucking question. I thought that for the things that I want to do or the things that I'm working on, that it would help catapult with that. I thought that it would give me the leverage that I needed to possibly do a family show, to help out with my son's career, who, we've been working on for the past few years, help with Kitty, help with all the film industry my other son is in, my youngest daughter that's also, a writer. I just thought that it would just help. But it was kind of like bad press. It turned out to be more negative than anything else. So it's a big regret that I have for 2017-18.
When it comes to reality TV, it seems like, from the outside looking in, it seems like there's people that do reality TV and they're the bad guy or the bad girl. And then there's some that just seem like they're the people's champ. Everybody likes them. They really can't do no wrong. If they get into a fight, they're still like the innocent one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that what you thought it was going to be for you? Like you were going to be more in a positive light, or?
I think that I thought that I was going to be in the positive light, but what ended up happening is Kitty, my daughter, ended up having a lot of, she came in the business with just a lot of negativity. And it just jumped onto me being her mom and us doing this together. So, but I ended up kind of like punching my way out of it because I'm so, women's rights. I'm such a, a kind of a feminist in a sense. So I had to show who I was and kind of like step out of her shadow and see who I was. So now I kind of have more of a female following. I was a young mom, so I can relate. I'm just relatable.
Now, is there a question you hate to answer? Is there something people ask of you that you just can't stand? Something that gets under your skin?
You know what? I think that being a teen mom was very sensitive for me a while ago. Nothing gets under my skin. I think I just get a little sensitive when it comes to my kids because I raised them more so by myself. Things didn't work out with their dad. I ended up getting into another relationship, but with a businessman, someone that's all he did. So he was just never around, a good provider, but was just kind of never around. We kind of like, he assisted kind of through the phone or when he would come home and holidays. So I just did so much of raising them by myself, and I just feel like I just repeated my mom, you know. She ended up doing, she would, you know, pretty much live the same life. So you know, it's not what I wanted. So when people bring it up, it's a little bit of a sensitive subject for me.
Chinese Kitty has her own kids.
She does. She has a son, but we're both raising. So we kind of like split custody, kind of. It's not a custody thing, but he's with her 1 month, he's with me 1 month, and that's, you know, it just to kind of help her, allow her to still grow as an artist and what she's doing. And then at the same time, I just want to be very hands-on in his life because he doesn't have the cycle continues, you know?
Yeah, the cycle has not broken.
It has not broken.
Kind of thinking hindsight 2020 here.
Yeah.
You're a mom, yourself, and then her.
Yeah.
Can it be broken?
You know what? Some of it is learned behavior, right? So I think that she might not have picked the right guy because she might have, you know, seen what I was going through growing up, or, you know, us growing up together. And then, you know, she absolutely loves her stepfather, her father, but he just wasn't around as much as he could have been. So I think that played a part. I think that, you know, she didn't have the right guidance from a man to, you know, pick the right type of guy. So I think that she kind of had to navigate through that. And, you know, I think that the second girl might have gotten it a little bit better than she. You know, Cameron has a different experience than Taylor did because she's a little older. So, you know, even the 2 years matters, even, you know, when it comes to things like that.
Now, with the name, so on social media, she's Taylor. She's Chinese Kitty.
Kitty.
And on social media, you're Chinese Nicky.
Right.
You had that screen name after she already had her screen name, or?
I had that name since I was 5 years old, maybe 5 years old. In my neighborhood in Brooklyn, there was a Jamaican Nicky, Puerto Rican Nicky,
wow.
And I was just Chinese Nicky. So it was just the way people referred to me. So, oh, who are you with? Chinese Nicky. So she got older, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, got Chinese Kitty. And, you know, someone said, hey, you know your mom is Chinese Nicky. So, you know, that's what anywhere in Brooklyn or in New York, that's what they refer to me as.
Is there any Chinese nicknames within the family other than you two?
Nope.
Okay, nobody's...
No.
What did you think of that name, Chinese Kitty? Or what do you think of that
You know what? Until she explained it to me, I thought it was disgusting. I thought that it was part of the persona that she had when she got into that whole nightlife of, you know, which is a really bad time for us because I kind of disconnected from her. We kind of just stopped speaking. You know, I think I went so hard to, a little off the subject, but I went so hard to go all out to make sure that they don't make the mistakes I made, and she ended up doing it anyway. And when I heard the name Kitty, I was like, what? You know, but when we sat down, actually it was an interview, and I heard they asked, where did you get the name from? And she said that people said that my eyes looked like cats, like a cat eye. I thought that it was something on her private, that they were talking about, you know, her vagina.
Because she was an exotic dancer.
She was. See, I didn't even know that until, I found out. So I sent her away to college. Very interesting story. I sent her away to college, and the dean called me and told me that she hasn't been coming to class, and that they had to tell her that this isn't a hotel, and you can't just pop up and just sleep here. And I'm like, well, where is she going? And she said, well, they said that she told them that she works at a nightclub. And I can only imagine, you know. So that's how I kind of found out that she was, you know, I think it lasted maybe 6 months.
How long was she into it when you found out? Like, how long was she keeping it a secret before?
Maybe 6 months.
Oh, okay.
And then I just kind of disconnected from there. Like I was livid. Like she put me through so much hell. Out of all the kids, she just put me through so much hell. Like and I'm like, is this payback? Is this what? Even though I don't feel like I did these things to my mother, I think I just kind of, I grew up fast with the kids, but I was a different kind of bad. So she was a boy kind of bad. I was a street kind of bad. It's all bad at the end of the day.
How did the relationship get repaired when you disconnected with her?
I think that I just had to be the adult and put my pride aside because I felt like she needed me. I felt like the stories I kept hearing people come back and say and the things that were happening to her, I felt like all she needed was guidance. And I guide everyone else. I speak to kids all the time. I'm outreach programs and things like that. And I can't even control my own house. So it just kind of, I reached out to her and I just told her that, I loved you, I love her, and I'm here. And if you need me, I'm here for you. And she did. I think that at that time she was just kind of, in the world trying to figure it out, and she was just going down the wrong path.
How long do you think time elapsed before you reconnected back with her?
2 years. And she came back, she was pregnant. And so from the time she was 18 to 20, and she tried to hide the pregnancy, but I guess she needed to come back. She needed to come back home, but I noticed with the things, she was sleeping a lot, she was eating a lot. I was just watching her pattern, and I told her sister, like, I know that your sister's pregnant. What is she gonna do? And I wasn't for it. One, I wasn't ready to be a grandmother, and I think I was 36 at the time. And I just felt like I foresaw what was going to happen. The father, I couldn't really put my hand. He was an older guy, older than me. I just kind of saw what was happening because I've been through it. And I was right. And I was just like, you know what? This is going to slow my life down. I was just kind of now gaining momentum in my own life where I was kind of separating from her dad a little bit and just standing on my own 2 feet. And here comes a baby. So now I know that she wasn't going to do it on her own. And it happened exactly the way I thought. But I'm grateful because I love him, obviously. So he's like my new, I'm mommy, she's mommy, and it's perfect. We have a perfect family now.
So she comes back to you.
She comes back to me.
After 2 years.
Yeah.
Now, do you care what people think of you?
No, I could give a fuck. I don't. Look at my life. I've been judged. If anyone has been judged, it's been me. Like, from my own parents, from my own family. I'm West Indian. My dad's Asian. So you already know what was going on there. Yeah, I was the first one in my family to have a kid, grandchild, and the youngest grandkid, So I think that I just went through a lot of just a baby maker. They used to call me a baby maker. I was in trouble a lot too. So I got judged. So when I got older and I learned to accept who I was, and I feel like I made a lot of more right than I did wrong, I stopped giving a fuck. Now it's like I'm just an open book. I'll tell you anything you want to know. I'm not ashamed anymore. So I went through that with my family being ashamed of me, and I learned to just get through it, push through it, love myself, all things that I had to teach myself, really.
Honest when you say that?
Yeah.
You don't care?
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I think that sometimes I get a little upset with people that judge me on Instagram only because they don't know the real truth. So that annoys me a little bit. So if you're going to judge me on what you know about me, not what you think about me. You know what I'm saying? Judge me on, oh, yeah, young mom, whatever. Don't judge me on notions that you, coming back to me and Kitty dating the same guy, you guys are nasty. That's not even true. And you're judging me on it at that. So I have a little bit of thick skin when it comes to, don't judge me with shit that you don't know.
Now, have you always been like this when you don't care, or was there a time when you did back then?
I only care to my to my family. I was just raised with my mom and her siblings and my dad's family, and they were so fucking judgmental that I at my best just try to walk a straight line like a robot. Look, I am finishing school. Look, my kids are clean. Look, they speak well. They're polite. So I did care what people thought about me as a mother. But as I got older and I'm, probably the first one to buy a home, finished college, got my kids together. They went to all good schools. I moved out of Brooklyn. I moved to, PA for a little bit, then to Atlanta. And all the naysayers in my family are the ones that are trying to figure themselves out, and I'm still going. So I really stopped caring after I started getting my life together.
Now, when it comes to caring about another person's opinion of others, it can lead to health issues. It can lead to a certain level of stress. It can lead to anxiety, depression, worst case, suicidal thoughts. Did it ever get that bad for you when you did care about another person's opinion of you?
No, never. I'm just not even that type of person. I'm all happy thoughts. The only time that I was ever in a really dark place is my niece. She committed suicide 3 years ago. And at that time, my best friend, 3 weeks before, had a stroke. And she had a stroke and she was almost brain dead. And then 3 weeks later, my niece committed suicide. And she was the oldest girl amongst our kids. She was like my daughter, my brother's daughter, and my childhood best friend's daughter. So, and I just didn't detect it. And she was living with me she was staying with me prior to, and I knew something was wrong. And I didn't move quick enough, so I was just in a very dark place. Never suicidal, but I can understand how that can happen or how those thoughts can take place in a person's mind, especially when their life is just spiraling down. So to answer your question, never from judgment, but I have been in a dark place where I can understand that.
With your niece committing, can I ask some questions about that?
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
How did she do it?
She hung herself.
And how'd you find out?
Her other aunt called me. So we all grew up together. We're all like best friends. And she called and she said, she said, Nicky, I just got a call. I think Ty committed suicide. And that must have been the hardest phone call. I literally just screamed. I mean, to the point that I just started throwing up. It was like the longest maybe 10 minutes of my life. I just stopped in traffic. I just didn't move my car and just stayed just screaming. It was insane. But yeah, that's how I found out. She called and she's like, please don't. I could be wrong, but that's a phone call that her mother got from a police officer. And later on to find out within that hour it was true. It was true.
So it didn't happen at your residence?
It didn't happen at my residence. No, it happened at her own residence. She was a teenager, but she was living in her own place. And it happened, and you just got the phone call. And, I think it hurt even more because prior to, all this happening, her and I fell out. We went through some issues, and, I'm such a stubborn person sometimes. Instead of just kind of seeing what she was going through, and which I did, which is the reason why she was with me in the first place. But then other stuff transpired, and we took a break, and then it happened, and I'm like, I was closer to her than anyone on her dad's side, other than her father. And it's a fucked up feeling when you can save the world, but the people in your own life go through things and you can't help, or you can't fix it, or you're not in time. And, so that's something that I live with every day. I put the smile on my face. I get up every day, and but that is always in the back of my head. It's, it never leaves.
Some guilt there?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I feel like, I'm pretty sure that we're all going through it. Some of her dad, not being 100% there for whatever reasons that he had. And then, the relationship with her mom. And then, even the relationship with me and the other aunt, it's just, I think that we kind of, dropped the ball a little bit, or a lot, so there's a lot of regret there. We've never dealt with anything like this. She might be the youngest child in our family in our entire family on both sides. I have a big, huge family, and for that to happen to us, it's like, even when I lost a cousin in 9/11, she was young too. So, that it's just weird. It's kind of like a 1 in a billion kind of thing, and it happened to us. So.
Somebody watching this, like you said, there were signs, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody watching this that may be in a similar situation, and there may be signs too, but is there any advice somebody, and of course circumstance could be different for everybody, but is there any advice you would say to somebody that might be seeing signs of this sort of thing happening before it happens?
Communicate. Ask, With my niece, I saw something going on, and I contacted her father. And at that time, and he is loved his daughter, love his wife. On the other hand, I just never cared for her. I came to her about me feeling like something was wrong. And she brushed it off and basically told me to mind my business. And I just, to this day, I resent her for it. I resent her. I never have another word for her. She's the devil. Because I feel like if they took it as serious as I thought it was at that time, it just didn't happen at that moment. It happened maybe a year later. But I saw it. I saw the signs. It was something, she was troubled. She was going through things. And I talked to her about it. I talked to her thinking, the stepmother, thinking that we can, as adults, but it ended up turning into a really bad situation. Communicate. Just communicate. Ask. Talk. You got to talk to your kids, your friends. You have to, check on them. You have to see it. Everyone is just always assuming that everyone's well. Even I, at that time, everyone thinks I'm just a brick house and I'm just built to last. I didn't come out of my room for weeks. I'd come out, I was in a very dark place, go back in the room. I had a little son at the time, and I didn't want to deal with anyone. I shut my phone off. No one. I disconnected from the entire world. So, and no one checked on me, So it can happen like that.
Now, because you've dealt with a situation like suicide, and not only that, but plenty of stuff in your life that you've mentioned here very briefly. Speaking of communication, have you ever sought counseling,
Yeah,
therapy,
yeah.
medication for
Never medication.
the
I'm a
stuff you've
very
gone through?
strong-willed girl. But I was in an abusive relationship earlier on in my life, and something happened that was really, it was beyond just, being abused. When I tried to get away, the guy stalked me, and then one day it just led into him following me home, and well, it was even worse than that. He was in my car. I was working at a nightclub, and I'm waiting on valet would pull up in the car. They obviously I worked there. They knew who I was, and they're like, "Yeah, your boyfriend got the key. He's gonna run." I'm like, "My boyfriend? Who?" So now the car pulls up. I open the door, the passenger side, and I'm what the fuck? And he literally grabs my hair, and he takes off with my head and my feet dangling, going down the Long Island Expressway. Mm. And at this point, he's like the steering wheel. He's holding my head, like pulling my hair out. And I'm like trying to fight, and very strong guy. And we got to a light, and I ran. And he chased me down, and I'm banging on doors and banging on. It was so like traumatic for me, He was like damn near ripping my clothes off in the street. And no one called the cops. No one. People, I saw them at the door. It's like 3 a.m. No one helped me. He got me back in the car and took me to his residence and tried to rape me. Clothes off and everything. And his sister came in, and he had a knife, and she was just like, what the fuck are you? What are you doing? And she called the police, and he ran out as she was calling the cops. So after that was just so much for me to deal with. I just sought therapy after that. That was and everything else just came out, with just all that I've been through as a child. And
how was therapy for you? There's people that's watching this that might have considered it, but might be scared to do it, don't feel like they need it. Just curious on
it depends on what kind of therapy you get. Cognitive therapy might be the best. Just going to a therapist and having them just listen is not it. That's not the kind of therapy you want. You want something where someone is showing some kind of compassion, where they're listening and they're giving you, they're even allowing you to think about your own thoughts and your own, they're kind of just replaying it back to you. Kind of like this interview right now, where it just kind of makes you think about some of the things that you've experienced. So that's the kind of therapy you want, than just someone just sitting there listening and taking notes and never giving you back any kind of advice. Or that's not the kind of therapy that you want. You want, the reason why you're going is you need some kind of direction and order. So I think cognitive therapy is probably the best.
So the type of therapy that you experienced was not cognitive?
I did a few.
Okay.
I did a few. I went to, after that, I went to a few therapists after that. I wanted to then talk about my issues with my father. Kind of like why my life was just so out of control. Why I needed to understand, and I got it. The no guidance. I was in the street early. I had a kid early, and I had I think a parent there, or my father there, and my mom not working all the time, I would have made better, healthier decisions. But I was just in a household with my mom that did as much as she could do.
And why did you try or use different therapists? Because you didn't like one, or one wasn't working out for you, or?
I just felt like I didn't get the experience that I thought that I didn't get the help that I felt like I needed. So I think that maybe the third therapist was the one that kind of allowed me to take it back to my childhood, to understand why I would be in an abusive relationship, to understand why I would be choosing these kind of guys. That's the therapy that I needed. I needed to understand why my life was so fucked up, you know? Yeah.
Was it helpful in the end?
It was. I mean, to this day, like I can understand certain things. I can help now. You know, I can teach. I can now sit down and you know, I can tell my kids, listen, you need to choose this kind of guy because, you know, these kind of guys come with this kind of life, and you do want to break the cycle. So yeah.
Still feel like you need it?
Yes. I think that in the past few years, my life has it's taken a turn. So I did a lot of self-help and a lot of meditating and throughout my earlier adult years, and I feel like I was more at peace then than I am now. I think a lot of it has to do with social media. It has to do with me being on TV. It has to do with me living up to certain expectations from my own kids. So I feel like I'm not in control the way I want to be right now. So I feel like I will be seeking therapy really soon.
What are your keys to success? What are some things that make you successful to this point?
My will to not give up. I've been told no my entire life. And the key to that is you can't believe what people think of you and what they tell you. You gotta follow your own mind. You have to. You have to. I mean, even just today, I was I was debating my son's music with someone that feels like they know music, I guess, more than me. And you know, as hard as I worked on his EP, they're like, you know, this is not the kind of music that every time you take a no, it's a setback when you allow that to seep in. I stopped giving a fuck, again, what people think I'm gonna do. I believe in my mind, I believe 1,000% that if I believe I can achieve it to whatever magnitude is in my head, it will manifest. So the key to that is convincing yourself that you are what you say you are and to not stop. You know, there's that movie, so weird and so random, Split. But I watched that movie, and it's such an interesting movie because, you know, all these different personalities, but the person believed that they are these people. And the most interesting character was the Beast. And he believed that the Beast existed. And the Beast really became a beast. He felt like he had the will and the power to climb the walls, and he did it. It's crazy as it sounds. I believe in my head that you can really, if you believe that you are what you say you are, you can become it. And that's why I just don't take no for an answer, and that's why I keep going, and my last projects will land me on top of Forbes and everything else. So, yeah.